So these clips were recorded when the engine was still stock in my old S13 Silvia, driving with my mate. This was cruising back from meet. Then I crashed that car and I was looking for another car, and I've stumbled across this 180 on Marketplace, which I picked up for $5,500. Didn't come with those Type X lights, and it was in pieces, it wasn't running. Had a SR20 in it, which I found out later had been freshly rebuilt and hasn't even been run yet. I'm saving that for another project. And this was sort of like a render I made of what I wanted the car to look like when I was finished. So I pulled out the SR20 to start with and started cleaning up the bay, and I seam welded everything in engine bay and inside the arches, and primed underneath the whole car as well, and the rear arches and engine bay, and stitch welded the rear strut towers and painted everything in black, just a gloss black. Then while I had the welder out, I decided to reinforce the rear and front lower control arms, and I got some Type X lights to throw on the car, some 20mm wider front fenders, and I threw the Origin bonnet on, as well as the Aero front bar and lip. I had to also put a new driver's door on because it had a dent. Got a Type X fiberglass replica rear wing, and decided to paint the fuel tank as well as the subframes for the front and the rear of the car. And I made myself a Nismo power brace, put the S15 interior in, and a new bride seat. I got some carpet to go in the rear of the car, and I started stripping down the old engine. You can see how small these engines really are. And these are all the original components before I got them cleaned up. And then this is just a quote of everything I got done at the machine shop, but I also then decided to get the head ported, and I had to order some shims for the new cams that I ordered. So these are the valve springs for the new cams from Camtech, which they reground the original ones for me. And these are the specs for those cams, pretty mild for a street car. And then I got everything back from the machine shop cleaned up. And I got some spool rods, some CP pistons, which are now 9:1 compression, and they're 1/2 mil over, and standard Cometic head gasket and standard bearings as well. And I just went with the original piston rings. Got them to port the oil return. Put some new Welsh plugs in, and you can see the oil port on the top there, and also the second oil return there is ported out. The new I-beam spool rods, just rechecking with plastic gauge clearances. New ALP head studs, Cometic head gasket went on, and then you can see the new head that's been decked and everything cleaned up, and they ported the oil return in the head as well. Ported all the intake and exhausts, and then put the head on with the cams. All the timing components then went on, and I cleaned up the turbo and got a new wastegate actuator so I could run some more boost. It's got a 15 psi spring in it. I put the intake manifold back on and got new hoses for everything, and the Golby cam gears you can see there, just the bottom of the engine. Got a bigger air filter for it, and I modified the sump. Unfortunately I didn't have any pictures, but this is exactly what it looked like. I just copied the design from this Lewis engine one that I found online. through the engine in the car. Alright, so I'm just editing this video and I realize it's going to be a bit confusing, but thought I'd just explain. The CA engine I actually built and was running in the black S13 that I had before. Then I crashed that car, fortunately, and then I bought this 180, which I put the engine in, but I thought it would be good to include that as part of the process because that is the engine that's in the car now. But you'll see the engine's in the Silvia on the dyno, but it's running exactly the same in the 180 now. This is the car that I spent a lot of time on working to get to this stage. Silvia Aero front end. 180 SX rear with Type X lights, exactly like the black car. So the engine's still running fine now, there's no issues. Let me know if you're interested in me going into more detail on the engine work and some guidance, things I've learned, things that I would change. Let me know down below, I can make a video on that. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next video. Cheers.